Psychopathic serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer taunted fellow inmates because he wanted to die, a leading interviewer who sat down with the notorious murderer has claimed. Six-time Emmy Award-winning producer and writer Nancy Glass interviewed Dahmer in 1993 for CNN's Inside Edition. A year before he was killed behind bars, at the hands of a fellow inmate. Speaking to The Sun Online, Nancy explains why she believes Dahmer wanted to die as a way to escape his unnatural urges. Nancy spent over a year and a half securing the exclusive interview with the serial killer, building up a relationship with him and his family. He was not pleased with the interview, she said. His family were so angry. They said to me, "You've made him look like a monster." Nancy's view was that Dahmer made himself look like a monster. She added, "I don't want a criminal to be pleased with their portrayal." Despite their fury at how the interview had gone, Nancy continued speaking to the Dahmer family afterwards, and was in communication with the killer right up until he died. Dahmer was murdered in 1994 by fellow inmate Christopher Scarver, who bludgeoned him to death with an iron bar at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. In the months leading up to his death, he was known to have taunted fellow inmates by appearing to relish his sickening crimes. Prisoners recall he would shape his food into body parts and squirt ketchup on them to replicate blood, as if in reference to his grisly cannibalism. But Nancy believes that this was due to the fact that he wanted to die. For that reason, she admits she wasn't surprised at all when she learned of his violent death. "I believe he taunted people, he wanted this," she said. "He wanted to escape. In prison, he couldn't do what he wanted to do, which was to continue his evil behavior." She adds that in the interview, Dahmer freely admitted that he still had the same urges. Nancy asked the killer if he would still be committing crimes if he was out on the streets. Calmly, he replied, "Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me." It was clear to Nancy that Dahmer still had these urges, and that he wanted to get rid of that. In prison, Dahmer claimed to have found faith and became a born-again Christian. Nancy believes Dahmer was convinced that he would experience redemption for his evil crimes if he converted other prisoners. She recalls how after he was murdered, Dahmer further told her he was devastated. Not at his son's death, but because he hadn't been able to convert other prisoners. In their letters, which continued almost up until Dahmer's death, Nancy says he mostly wrote about Jesus. He said his Lord and Savior would forgive him, she said. Despite that, she believes he spent his final months tortured by what he had done. He stayed up all night and slept all day because he couldn't face the daylight, she said. Let's not sugarcoat this, he was a psychopath. The most bizarre part of the interview for Nancy was how much Dahmer wanted to talk. He wanted to talk to somebody, and he had gotten used to talking to me, she said. Nancy, who today is CEO of Glass Entertainment Group, and has more than 22 TV shows and podcasts currently in production in the US, admits she hasn't watched the Netflix series yet, but definitely will. It's not meant to be a documentary, it's a TV show, she said. We are still fascinated by serial killers as a society, because it is so baffling how anybody could be so cruel and do such terrible, terrible things.